Welcome to the first minisode of the Trigger Discipline Podcast. In this minisode, we are going to be discussing California's Prop 63. In 2016, the state of California passed a law requiring background checks for ammunition purchases. Fast forward to 2020 when a judge ruled the law unconstitutional, and then another court subsequently ruled that this law could remain in place. To help describe the ins and outs of this law, how it came into effect, and where it currently stands, we're turning it over to Pro 2A attorney Seth Morris.
Yeah, hello, and thanks for having me, Nick. So I guess just to give everyone at home a background, what this law, in essence, it does two things in California. So one, to buy ammunition, you are pretty much required to have your driver's license and then another form of ID on top of that. So just your driver's license isn't good enough, right? They do background checks. Like we would do in most every other state on firearm purchases. They extended that to purchases of ammunition, right? So their goal is to keep ammunition out of the hands of convicted felons, people with domestic violence records, subject to protection orders, that kind of stuff. So they require you to have this to show ID. But the thing is California's ID, because they issue driver's licenses to illegal aliens, just the driver's license itself is not enough. So generally, to purchase ammunition in California, you have to have you have to have your ID plus your birth certificate, a certified copy of your birth certificate, or your passport. So it's insane. It's an insane requirement that no other state has. And so
takes a long time to get those because people don't, if you don't have a passport already, which a lot of people don't have one laying around.
Yeah, I mean, in most United States, citizens don't have a passport, right? It probably takes 6 to 8 weeks turnaround time. I think I saw in the pleadings, the cost in California is about $145. And then I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks for your birth certificate to get that birth certificate. To get a certified copy of that as well. So there's no quick fix, right? And so that's kind of the first issue is there's all of these requirements that are non-essential, right, to purchasing ammunition. Another issue is they have a 16% error rate. And so of that, so I think they did 600,000 sales and 100,000 came back as errors, and lawful citizens were denied, the ability to purchase ammunition 16% of the time. By contrast, they caught 0.03% of people were prohibited. So their target of who they're trying to stop from buying ammunition made up 0.03% of sales, right? So you're thousands of percent more likely to get turned away for being a lawful citizen and your address has changed, or for whatever reason you're not in the system, right? And so there's 16% of people were getting turned away. And so that's kind of the first major issue is this this unreliable system that turns away almost 20% of lawful citizens and requires all of these extra hurdles that you have to jump through. Is that a permissible burden on your Second Amendment rights, right? The second part to their law is if you can't buy ammunition online so you can't buy ammunition online and have it shipped directly to your house, right? If you want to buy it online, you have to get it shipped to a retailer and go through those routes. You still have to show your passport essentially. And then the second is if you bring it, so say you go on a hunting trip to Oregon and you live in California. If you bring ammunition you bought in Oregon back to California, now you're a criminal, right? So you can't transport ammunition sold outside of California into the state of California. So that raises dormant commerce clause issues. I don't think this firearms podcast is the best way or the best use of our time, because that's really, really kind of heavy legal stuff. But generally something like that impacts interstate commerce by not allowing something in a situation like the ammunition, it can be unconstitutional.
So I guess, yeah, that's kind of the base of the law where, it in 2016, that's when it passed. What are the recent developments?
Yeah. So, in a case like this, so it was brought by multiple plaintiffs. So you have kind of people of different classes that are impacted. That way you can attack this law from different angles, right? So if I was just a private citizen, I can't attack it from the same angle as a retailer. So they have retailers in the state of California that said up to 50% of people are just turned away essentially at the door because they come in and they say, oh, you only have your driver's license. Okay, I can't sell you ammunition, right? They just didn't know. So the retailer in California. Then you have private citizens who have had issues. One of them was a Purple Heart veteran, a combat veteran, is unable to comply with these laws because he was an orphan. He doesn't know who his father was, so he can't get a certified copy of his birth certificate. And if he can't get a copy of his birth certificate, he can't get a passport. So he was enough of a citizen to serve in war and get injured, upholding the Constitution, but he's not enough of a citizen in California to buy ammunition. Right? So you have citizens, you have retailers in the state, and you have retailers outside of the state. And so they filed a lawsuit saying that this violated, their constitutional rights, and they list off all the different, penal code statutes in California and all those ways that it violates. So they file this lawsuit. Lawsuits of this magnitude can take years to work through, right? So what they do is they file the preliminary injunction. A preliminary injunction is the standard is irreparable harm. So you're saying while this case is pending, I need something to happen right now because if it does not happen, so if somebody else is not stopped from doing something, I'm going to suffer irreparable harm in the meantime. And so the judge that handled this, he wrote a 120-page order granting a temporary injunction. And so it's really a huge step that they granted that. So they granted that. It was last week. The Attorney General for California then filed a motion to stay, or basically to hit the pause button on that. That was denied. Then he filed an interlocutory appeal, which takes it up to. So right now they're in the federal court in California. It went up to the Ninth Circuit, which is above that. And the Ninth Circuit responded with a 1-paragraph order saying that they're basically the ban on ammunition sales, it's back, right? So it's back as it was.
So I guess what's that mean in the grand scheme of things? Like, how's it going to go forward from here? What are the chances that this ammunition check or background check for ammunition fails and gets eliminated from law?
So so I guess one of the things is you look at what is, really when a court looks at what are they looking to grant a preliminary injunction. And one of the things that they're looking for is likelihood of success on the merits, right? And so they're looking at your chance of success, whether or not there's irreparable harm going to be done, and basically whether kind of this is fair and in the public interest. They're kind of balancing all of these different things, right? I'm not using the exact court language, trying to use layman's terms here. So the biggest is likelihood of success on the merits. And that's what leads me to believe they're going to find that this is an impermissible burden on a lawful citizen's Second Amendment rights. And that's because, for them, they have to clearly see that this is so far in air that this is going to be stricken down to grant this at the state level. As far as a timeline, this is one of those things that is pretty much teed up to go to the Supreme Court, right? To go get this settled in California, then go to the Court of Appeals, and then end up in the Supreme Court. So that, as far as a timeline for this, this could be years in the making.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next is, so right now it's in the Ninth Circuit. Does it get resolved there, or does it go back to the California courts, or is it going to this, is the next stop the Supreme Court?
So we're at the interlocutory appeal stage, which means that they're going to resolve the issue of the injunction right? And then that could be appealed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like the inception of appeals is what we're dealing with right here. And so they'll resolve this injunction, and then it goes back to California, the Southern District Court in California. It's in San Diego, for them to resolve it. And so then, depending on that, then it would get the whole case would be appealed on the merits in the Ninth Circuit, and then potentially the Supreme Court. That makes sense. It's kind of a tangled, messy web right now.
Right, because if the injunction goes the pro two-way way, the anti-gun people file the appeals, and if it goes their way, the pro-gun people file appeals.
Yeah, I mean it's literally going to be in one corner you have the state of California with unlimited resources, right? And in the other corner you have the NRA-backed people who have a few resources as well. So it's not like anybody is hurting to pay their legal fees in this.
Well, at least some people will make money out of it.
Those damn lawyers, I tell you what, they always win.
Awesome. Well, so yeah, it sounds like there's some actual hope.
Yeah, and I want to read the verbatim quote from this order here. All right. So this is the verbatim. This is like the first page. It says, the experiment has been tried. The casualties have been counted. California's new ammunition background check law misfires, and the Second Amendment rights of California citizens have been gravely injured. In this action, plaintiffs seek a preliminary injunction enjoining California's onerous and convoluted new laws requiring ammunition purchase background checks and implementing ammunition anti-importation laws. For the reasons that follow, the motion for preliminary injunction is granted. The purported state interest to be achieved by these new laws is keeping ammunition out of the hands of prohibited Californians. These new laws are constitutionally defective for several reasons. First, criminals, tyrants, and terrorists don't do background checks. The background check experiment defies common sense while unduly and severely burdening the Second Amendment rights of every responsible gun-owning citizen desiring to lawfully buy ammunition. Second, the implementing regulations systematically prohibit or deter an untold number of law-abiding California citizen residents from undergoing the required background checks. Third, in the seven months since implementation, the standard background check rejected citizen residents who are not prohibited persons approximately 16.4% of the time. Fourth, the ammunition anti-importation laws directly violate the federal dormant commerce clause. I mean, that's pretty much just laying out the slap right there. I mean, that's a pretty powerful way to start this order. And so it really sets the tone. And it's 120 pages. I'll email this to you, Nick. That way you can link to it when the video goes live. If you're interested at all in the law and or firearms, I think it does a really good job of kind of walking through. I mean, we're talking all the way back to, the right to bear arms is also the right to own fire, or the right to own ammunition, right? And so they're talking all the way back to colonial times, right? Our fight for independence, following Supreme Court cases all the way till today. It's a little bit long, it's a little bit onerous, but there's a lot of really good information in there.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think what I want to leave it off on is really, if their gun laws, their existing gun laws work so well, and criminals and people aren't supposed to have guns don't have guns, who cares if they have ammunition, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the nutty thing about it is I don't know what you're gonna do, right? I can go up there and I can throw brass shells at you, or what would you do if you can't, if you're not supposed to own a firearm? What difference does the ammunition make, right? But
awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, and I think that wraps up our first ever minisode.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. And again, my name is Seth Morris, attorney at Berry Law Firm. We actively defend your Second Amendment rights and assist veterans in getting their disability benefits. So if you fall in either of those categories, give myself or one of the other skilled attorneys at our firm a call.
Awesome. Thanks again.
All right.